The manga kicks off with the MC casually playing a video game, already annoyed as he complains about how terrible the graphics look. He mutters that he'll check it properly later, clearly not impressed. After that, he heads home, but the moment he reaches for the doorknob, something strange happens. The door suddenly opens before he even gets the chance to unlock it. He pauses for a second, a bit confused, but eventually decides to step inside anyway. The second he enters, a sharp voice greets him, welcoming Akun back home. He responds normally, announcing that he's back, and then asks what she's doing. She replies in a cute tone, saying she's doing yoga, before immediately getting excited after noticing he brought ice cream. He casually asks if she wants some and tells her to pick whatever flavor she likes. Without hesitation, she happily shouts that she wants the soda-flavored one. As he starts walking away, he glances back at Achan, only to see her looking up while biting into her ice cream. Seeing this, he casually comments that she should probably dress a bit more appropriately since this isn't her house. She looks shocked and immediately questions why he's bringing that up now, especially when she's always dressed like this. He just laughs and reminds her that he's been telling her the same thing since day one. Not backing down, she suddenly grabs his arm, pulls him closer, and wraps her arms around his neck with a mischievous smile. At this point, he can't help but sigh in frustration, his thoughts drifting to his older sister.
His sister had always had incredibly high standards when it came to beauty. She loved everything neat and beautiful, and her sense of aesthetics had been sharp ever since she was little. Back in middle school, she once introduced him to her friend. He still clearly remembers that moment. Hanako. The instant he saw her, he was completely struck by her natural beauty. Long, curly eyelashes, large pupils that didn't need contact lenses, a small, delicate nose, and slightly thick but well-maintained eyebrows. Honestly, she looked like someone sculpted perfectly by the gods themselves. He lets out another sigh, realizing that he ended up inheriting the same taste and beauty as his sister, Tsuko. Meanwhile, she's still clinging to his neck. Slightly annoyed, he pulls up her jacket zipper a bit and asks what exactly she's trying to do. Just as he's about to walk away, she grabs his shirt again and begs him to play Mario Kart with her. He hesitates for a moment, mentioning that he has tests coming up soon, but she keeps insisting, asking him to play for just 2 hours. After a bit of resistance, he finally gives in. Before long, they're fully into the game. After a long gaming session, he lets out a tired sigh, realizing how late it's gotten, and more importantly, how hungry he is. Deciding to cook something, he heads to the kitchen, with her following right behind him, clearly curious about what he's going to make. He suggests making udon, but jokingly asks if they can pretend that she was the one who chose it, just to avoid his sister's disapproval later. Right then, she receives a text from Tsuko saying she'll be eating out tonight. Hearing that, he casually adds eggplant to the chilled udon, fully aware that his sister absolutely hates it. She looks at the dish with admiration and comments on how delicious it looks. As they sit down to eat, he brings up how busy his sister has been ever since starting college. Compared to that, Hanako's life in liberal arts seems a lot more relaxed. He casually assumes that being in the sciences must be way tougher for Tsuko. While eating, his thoughts drift again. He recalls how his sister used to live alone after starting college, but at some point, Hanako, who also enrolled in the same college, started visiting frequently. Now that he thinks about it, he actually ends up spending more time with Hanako than with his own sister. As he glances at her, he notices that even her side profile looks perfect. But then he catches something weird. She's literally chewing on her own hair. He immediately points it out, slightly amused, and she looks at him in surprise. Taking the chance, he asks if she wants him to tie her hair. Without hesitation, she hands him a hairband. Reluctantly, he starts tying her hair, but the close distance between them makes him feel unexpectedly flustered. By the time he's done, he quietly sighs in relief. She thanks him with a smile and casually jokes that he'd make a great husband. That comment definitely doesn't help his situation. Later, while washing the dishes, poor Asahi is still trying to recover from everything that just happened. His mind keeps replaying the moment, and he can't help but wonder if there's even a single healthy guy out there who wouldn't fall for Hanako when she smiles like that. Realizing where his thoughts are going, he immediately scolds himself and tries to shake it off. But right at that moment, she suddenly appears behind him saying she's going to take a shower. He simply nods and gestures for her to go ahead, which oddly seems to disappoint her a little. Still completely unaware of his inner struggle, she leans in closer, playfully peeking over his shoulder as she reminds him not to snoop around. Then, with a teasing grin, she quickly walks off, leaving him completely stunned once again. Overwhelmed, he forcefully drops a dish into the sink and mutters to himself about how intense everything feels. Eventually, he sits down on the floor, trying to calm himself, almost like entering a meditation state. He repeatedly reminds himself not to get carried away by the situation, no matter how tempting it might seem. His thoughts drift back to middle school, remembering how Hanako used to cling to him all the time, always insisting that they were just like siblings. Thinking about that now, he realizes something painful. If she truly sees him as a younger brother, then there's no way she could ever view him romantically. Especially not when she casually makes him do things like washing her underwear. And to make things worse, she was also his very first crush. Yeah, what a tragic situation.
Later on, as Asahi steps outside, he spots Hinakako walking toward him, looking unusually excited. He immediately notices that she's changed out of her usual loungewear, and his eyes linger for a second as he silently comments on her appearance. She suddenly asks coyly if she looks cute. Without missing a beat, he responds with over-the-top praise, calling her fashion sense absolutely marvelous, and even giving her a dramatic score of 100 million points. A few days later, Asahi casually asks if she's coming back from her part-time job. Hinako confirms it and quickly shifts the conversation toward his recent exams. He admits they were just average, nothing special. Hearing that, she playfully congratulates him anyway, and suddenly clings to him from behind, asking him to help her study next time. Confused, he wonders out loud why she even needs help when her grades are already good. She immediately denies that, loudly claiming she barely managed because of Tuko's intense tutoring, which was specifically meant to get them into the same college. She explains that it took her months just to reach an average level, and to make things worse, she's already forgotten most of what she studied. Asahi casually reacts, commenting that Tsuko's training sounds more like survival training than studying. She visibly shudders at the thought and quickly insists she doesn't want to remember any of that. Later, while sitting inside the house, Hinakako suddenly brings up how cute the black-haired member of Mayas is, mentioning their latest album MV that both Asahi and Tsuko seem to like. Asahi, feeling slightly flustered, calls out to her, asking if she's getting a bit too close. Completely oblivious, she casually asks if she is, while offering him some chips. He abruptly refuses, stands up, and tries to leave, but she quickly grabs his shirt to stop him. After a bit of hesitation, he gives in and stays, though internally he's struggling to deal with his emotions, honestly feeling a bit like a pet dog around her. Hinakako then casually mentions that his sister is eating out again. Asahi instantly uses that as his escape plan, saying he needs to make something to eat and asks her to let go. She agrees, and he quickly heads to the kitchen, stealing quiet glances at her from a safe distance. After cooking, he returns with a tray of hamburger steak. Hinakako immediately praises it with excitement, and they sit down to eat together. As she takes a bite, she comments on how spicy and delicious it is. Asahi casually asks if she had a rough day, which catches her off guard. She asks if it was that obvious. He reassures her that it wasn't obvious, but he could sense that something might be bothering her. Hinako tries to brush it off, saying she's fine, though she admits it feels a bit uncool to show her emotions like that. Seeing her mood, Asahi gently tries to comfort her, telling her that he actually appreciates her confidence. Hinako reflects on how her appearance often leads to misunderstandings, making it hard for her to connect with other girls. Feeling like she's said too much, she opens up about her insecurities with some hesitation. Noticing how upset she looks, Asahi gently takes her hand and tells her that beauty itself is a form of justice. She's clearly surprised by that statement, but he continues, acknowledging her struggles and telling her that he'd step in for her whenever she finds it hard to deal with others. He even brings up a specific memory,
back in her 3rd year when someone at her cram school accused her of staring at her boyfriend. After that, Asahi admits he actually went to a shrine and prayed for her accuser to fail their exams, and for the boyfriend to stub his pinky toe. He lets out a small laugh, unsure if his prayers did anything, but the intention was definitely there. Touched by this, Hinako suddenly hugs him tightly. Asahi, once again, can't help but think that he feels like a pet dog to her. Then, completely out of nowhere, she kisses his cheek. That instantly flusters him, and he quickly pushes her away, worried that things just crossed a line. Meanwhile, Hinako turns bright red, clearly affected by what just happened. Trying to play it off, she loudly insists that it was just a moment of happiness and didn't mean anything. Still embarrassed, Asahi just nods and awkwardly changes the topic, mentioning that he has strawberries. Hinako, still flustered, gets annoyed and asks why he isn't more embarrassed, calling him an idiot. Right then, their chaotic moment gets interrupted as Tsuko arrives, looking upset and immediately demanding to know what Asahi did to her friend. Caught completely off guard, Asahi quickly denies doing anything, not even sure how to explain the situation. Later, as he arrives home, he notices a pamphlet and his sister's mail near the door. After unlocking it and stepping inside, he's surprised to find Hinako already there, smiling warmly as she welcomes him back. He pauses for a second, admiring her face, before replying that he's home. She playfully asks if she surprised him, mentioning that she heard him unlocking the door. Taking the book from his hand, she realizes it's the one she ordered and happily expresses her excitement. But his mood suddenly shifts as he seriously reminds her again that she should dress more appropriately. Looking completely innocent, Hinako insists that she is dressed properly and even shows him her outfit. Meanwhile, Asahi is internally struggling, especially after noticing her exposed thighs. She steps closer, slightly blushing, and teasingly asks if he wants to see underneath, lifting her hoodie a little before stopping. Asahi quickly tries to stop her, but she continues anyway, revealing that she's just wearing shorts underneath. Amused by his reaction, she laughs and points out how he's clearly blushing. As she turns toward him with that same innocent smile, Asahi reflects on how his sister's friend keeps messing with his emotions. It reminds him of how 2 years ago she only ever saw him as a younger brother. Frustrated, he admits to himself that he doesn't even understand his own feelings anymore. Interrupting his thoughts, Hinako casually offers him some hot chocolate. He simply nods, still processing everything. Later, Asahi is sitting in front of his laptop, focused on his work. Hinako walks up and asks if he's studying. He confirms, saying he has a report due soon. She suggests watching TV together instead and offers to move her things out of the way, but Asahi politely declines, saying he plans to study in his room. Slightly surprised, she jokingly comments that he really is Toko's brother, given how serious he is about studying. Smiling, she decides to read quietly instead, so she doesn't disturb him, and even suggests they could study together if he wants. Asahi agrees and sits down, continuing his work while she gets comfortable on the couch with her book. After a while, he glances at her and notices how quiet she is when she's reading. Completely absorbed, she doesn't even notice him looking. A few moments later, she suddenly looks up and asks if something's wrong. He quickly denies it and instead comments on how much she seems to love reading. Hinako nods, explaining that it's easier for her to focus at home or here, but she struggles to concentrate on campus. Surprised, Asahi asks why, pointing out that she should have plenty of time between lectures. She explains that people often tease her for reading, saying it doesn't match her image. Some even suggest she's just doing it for attention. Clearly annoyed, she admits it's exhausting dealing with those comments and even questions whether reading suits her at all, calling herself an idiot. Asahi immediately tells her that's not true. Internally, he reflects on how he personally dislikes reading and realizes he's never even been to a public library.
Then, he remembers the first time he saw Hinako reading. She looked completely absorbed, unaware of everything around her, and honestly, she looked beautiful. Thinking back, he realizes that might have been the first time he felt that kind of admiration. When Hinako asks when that happened, Asahi explains that he found it impressive since all he reads is manga. To him, the fact that she genuinely enjoys reading enough to go to a library was admirable. Hinako calmly responds that she reads simply because she enjoys it, not because it's something special. But Asahi insists that it is admirable and adds that she's too kind for her own good. He points out that it's rude for people to say something like reading doesn't suit someone, and anyone would feel hurt hearing that. He praises her for trying to change herself instead of getting angry, saying that's something he genuinely respects. Hinako responds, slightly overwhelmed, saying that Asahi is being too kind and taking it too seriously. She explains that she just wanted to avoid people making those comments about her. Asahi calmly tells her again that he admires how much she enjoys reading, and that he likes that part of her. Ignoring her shocked reaction, he asks what she's reading. Slightly nervous, she replies that it's Heian,